While my nephew fought for his life, my husband and sister were indulging in pleasure. My name is Sabrina, and I'm 32 years old. My nephew Ramon lay in a hospital bed, clinging to life. Pneumonia had tormented him for 3 weeks, his lung function so weak that doctors dared not give a positive prognosis. At 13, he weighed only 90 pounds, his arms as thin as reeds. Thin oxygen tubes and fur lines snaked out of his small body, his breathing accompanied by faint moans, his brows furrowed tightly even in sleep, revealing unspeakable fragility. Meanwhile, his mother, my sister Amanda, was having coffee with my husband David, a euphemism for their secret trysts, an excuse to indulge themselves without a shred of guilt while their son teetered on the brink of death. Amanda's neglect of Ramon was etched into her very bones. When Ramon was 3, he suffered a convulsion from a high fever, but she was too busy at a girlfriend's pool party to care, leaving a neighbor to rush him to the hospital. On his elementary school graduation day, she skipped his first major life milestone to catch the launch of limited edition luxury goods, sending nothing but a screenshot of a money transfer. She even forgot Ramon's life-threatening nut allergy. Last birthday, she bought him an almond cake, which landed him in the emergency room. Her world revolved around Nordstrom sales, new handbag launches, and the next extramarital fling that would bring her excitement. Ramon was nothing more than a prop to decorate her motherly persona when she occasionally remembered him. By the hospital bed, Ramon's stepfather Charlie read him a baseball book in a soft voice, his fingertips gently pressing the pages to avoid disturbing the boy. In Ramon's life, Charlie had fulfilled the duties of a father 1,000 times more faithfully than Amanda ever had as a birth mother. He remembered Ramon's allergies, his fear of thunderstorms, the way his eyes lit up when he ate chocolate chip cookies, and even the baseball star cards he hid under his pillow. I paced outside the hospital room, the doctor's question still ringing in my ears, "Where is his mother? We need a family member's signature for the critical treatment." I swallowed my anger and forced a reply, "She'll be here eventually," but Charlie and I both knew it was a lie. Amanda would occasionally pop into the hospital for an hour, never asking the doctors about her son's condition. Instead, she'd hold up her phone, ask a nurse to adjust the angle, snap a selfie with the listless Ramon, and post it on social media with the caption, "My poor baby," to get a few comforting comments. Then she'd click her high heels and leave in a hurry, continuing her child-free vacation with David. "Aunt Sabrina, did Mom come today?" Ramon's voice was as hoarse as sandpaper when he woke, the breathing treatment having drained every ounce of his strength. He struggled to open his eyes, his gaze filled with cautious hope, like an abandoned puppy, always waiting for its owner to return. I knelt by the bed, gently brushing the sweat-soaked hair from his forehead, my throat tight as I lied, "Sweetheart, she's on her way. She'll be here soon." I'd told this lie so many times I was starting to believe it myself. Charlie looked at me over Ramon's head, his eyes filled with understanding and helplessness. We both knew Amanda was probably getting a spa treatment or flirting with David at a restaurant, planning their next secret date, completely indifferent to her son's fight for survival, where every breath might be his last. My husband David's support was unwavering, yet eerily attentive. He paid Amanda's rent and bought her designer bags without a single complaint, drove me to the hospital every day on time, but never mentioned Amanda's dereliction of duty. He even made excuses for her. "Amanda just got divorced, she's emotionally unstable. Ramon has us to take care of him." Looking back, that unreasonable generosity should have been a red flag. He'd never shown such concern for my nephew before. But in the chaos of caring for Ramon, coordinating with doctors, handling bills, and comforting the boy, I'd missed those obvious clues. It wasn't until a nurse ran over smiling and said, "His fever's broken, and his oxygen saturation is stable," that I leaned against the wall, feeling a glimmer of genuine hope. Ramon would get better. But I had no idea then that his recovery was just the beginning of a drastic upheaval in our lives, a storm of betrayal and choice looming on the horizon. 3 months earlier, Amanda had shown up at my door looking like a tabloid disaster. Her hair disheveled, eyeshadow smudged, her expensive dress stained, clutching a divorce decree in her hand. When Charlie divorced her, he'd left her with practically nothing, no money, no house, not even any furniture to take with her. He'd wanted to teach her a lesson about the consequences of shirking responsibility and cheating repeatedly. Looking at her tearful face, I'd softened, thinking of blood ties, and giving her a second chance. I'd cleaned out a guest room for her, bought her new clothes, helped her find a job, and even asked David to keep an eye on her. But now I realized it might have been the biggest mistake of my life. I'd opened the door to a wolf in sheep's clothing, letting her erode my marriage and trust from within my own home. Once Ramon's condition stabilized, the doctor said Charlie could take care of him temporarily, allowing me to go home and rest. I was overjoyed at the thought of taking a shower, napping, and grabbing some clean clothes for the hospital. When I walked into the house, it was unnaturally quiet, a red flag I should have noticed. Amanda's car was parked in the driveway, but she wasn't in the living room watching her usual afternoon soap operas, nor was she messing around in the kitchen. Then I heard it, the sound of a woman's coquetry, and a man's murmur coming from my bedroom. They were voices I knew all too well, yet they sent a chill straight to my core. Ironically, I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob, trying to convince myself I was mistaken, that Amanda had brought a friend over, that things weren't what they seemed. Because that's what good people do, isn't it? We give others the benefit of the doubt, even when it's as thin as a sheet of paper. But then David laughed, a deep, satisfied laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in months, a laugh that shattered all my illusions. I slammed the door open, the sound echoing like a thunderclap. The scene before me was a twisted nightmare. Amanda was lying naked on top of David, the gold scarf I'd given her scattered at the foot of the bed, her long hair spread across my pillow, while David's hand tangled in her tresses. They were so lost in each other they didn't even notice me. So that's why you've been so reasonable about the hospital bills and so generous to my sister. My voice trembled with uncontrollable rage, yet cold hatred seeped through every word. They froze instantly. Amanda grabbed my blanket in panic to cover herself, but her face showed no remorse. Instead, she looked like a wronged victim. Sabrina, let me explain. It wasn't intentional. We never wanted you to find out this way. Oh, and how did you want to tell me? With a Hallmark card? Or by renting a plane to write it in skywriting, so everyone knows my sister and husband are cheating in my bed? I took a step closer, the floor burning beneath my feet. I was surprised by my own calm, as if I were recounting someone else's story. Now get out of my house, both of you. Take your filth and get out of my sight. You can't do this. I have nowhere to go. Amanda screamed, her eyes filled with greed and resentment. I stared at this woman who'd abandoned her dying son for an affair, my heart hardening into ice. You should have thought about that before you turned my bedroom into a midlife crisis playground, while your son lay in the hospital fighting for his life. You have hands and feet. You could seduce someone else's husband, so you can damn well support yourself. She let out a scoff, a sneer of contempt spreading across her face. Sabrina, stop pretending. You never could keep David. I'm better than you, I understand men. He needs someone who can truly make him happy, not a frumpy housewife who only cares about kids. David sat on the bed, scrambling to get dressed, looking uncomfortable but never uttering a word of denial. His silence hurt more than any excuse. I couldn't hold back any longer. I grabbed the photo frame from the nightstand and smashed it to the floor, the glass shattering like my broken heart. Get out. Now. I screamed, my voice hoarse with rage. One more second and I'll call the police and show everyone what disgusting people you are. Seeing I meant business, Amanda hastily gathered her designer clothes and cosmetics. David kept his head down, too ashamed to meet my eyes, clutching a bunch of flimsy excuses as he followed Amanda out the door in embarrassment. 20 minutes later, I was alone in the empty house, the stench of their betrayal still lingering in the air. I collapsed to the floor, staring at the shards of glass, overwhelmed with confusion. How had things come to this? But I quickly pulled myself together. They couldn't take Ramon away, they couldn't erase my responsibility to this child, and they couldn't break my courage to rebuild my life. That night, Charlie called to ask if Amanda had gone to the hospital to say goodnight to Ramon. I finally broke down in tears over the phone, pouring out the whole truth. Charlie was silent for a long time before saying, "Don't worry, I'm here," his voice steady and reliable, giving me a glimmer of strength. The next day, when a social worker came to the hospital asking where Ramon's mother was, and if she could take custody, my answer changed everyone's lives forever. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm seeking permanent custody of Ramon. The family courthouse reeked of despair and disinfectant, cold and oppressive. I'd never been to a place like this before, but now I was here not only to end a betrayed marriage, but also to fight for a stable home for a child who wasn't legally mine. My lawyer, Margaret Steinberg, wore a sharp business suit, her eyes as piercing as steel cables, perfect for the battle ahead. Your sister agreed to give up custody? Margaret asked, adjusting her glasses as she flipped through the documents. She signed without even reading it, I said, telling the truth. Amanda was in such a hurry to start her so-called new life with David, her head filled with romance, that she barely glanced at the paperwork that would determine Ramon's future. I don't think she realized what she was giving up, I added. Margaret raised an eyebrow, her tone firm, or she knew exactly what she was doing, and didn't care. And that was the truth. Amanda had never had a maternal bone in her body. Even when Ramon was a baby, she'd treated him like an accessory, a prop to show off on social media, not a child who needed love and care. She couldn't remember his birthday, couldn't tell the difference between formula stages, and when Ramon fell while learning to walk, her first reaction wasn't to help him up but to complain that he dirted her new shoes. The custody hearing was a farce. Amanda arrived 40 minutes late, wearing a revealing slip dress and oversized sunglasses, as if she were attending a party instead of a hearing that would decide her son's future, avoiding paparazzi rather than facing her responsibilities. The judge banged his gavel and asked solemnly if she opposed my custody application. No, Your Honor, Amanda said lightly, not even glancing at Ramon sitting next to me. I think this is best for everyone. By everyone, she clearly meant only herself and David. The judge granted me temporary custody pending a full evaluation. Over the next 6 months, Amanda never showed up, not even for the 3 supervised visits mandated by the court. In the end, the temporary custody became permanent, and I officially became Ramon's guardian. Ramon's physical recovery was slow but steady, but the emotional scars took much longer to heal. One night a month after he was discharged, we sat at the kitchen table catching up on the homework he'd missed while in the hospital. The warm light of the desk lamp shone on his face as he suddenly put down his pencil and asked through tears, Aunt Sabrina, why doesn't Mom want me? Did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough, or did I cost too much money when I was sick? I set aside my math workbook and pulled him tightly into my arms, feeling his thin shoulders tremble as my heart shattered into pieces. Sweetheart, you did nothing wrong, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. You're smart, kind and brave, you're perfect just the way you are. Some people just don't know how to love properly. That's her fault, not yours. Charlie became an irreplaceable part of our lives, a closeness he'd never shared with Amanda during their marriage. He came for dinner every Wednesday without fail, bringing roast chicken and desserts that Ramon and I loved, sitting at the table listening intently to Ramon's school stories, even the trivial ones. He never missed a single one of Ramon's school events, parent-teacher conferences, baseball games, talent shows, always sitting in the front row, cheering loudly. Whenever Ramon had nightmares about his hospital stay, his mother's abandonment, or unexplained loneliness, Charlie would rush over immediately, taking turns with me to sit by Ramon's bed, telling me funny stories about Ramon's childhood until he fell asleep again. We were building an unexpected family, not bound by blood or marriage certificates, but by choice, commitment, and stubborn love. The first few years were financially tight. I worked full-time while paying legal fees and Ramon's follow-up medical costs, barely making ends meet. Charlie helped as much as he could, quietly covering Ramon's out-of-pocket medical expenses and school supplies, sometimes sneaking groceries into our fridge when he thought I wasn't looking. We learned to find joy in the simple things. Instead of eating out, Ramon and I experimented with home cooking, him washing vegetables and me cooking, filling the kitchen with laughter. Instead of expensive vacations, we camped at state parks on weekends, Charlie bringing the tent and grill, the 3 of us sitting by the campfire, stargazing and telling stories, Ramon leaning between Charlie and me, saying it was the happiest time of his life. Though we didn't have much money, our lives were filled with warmth and security, the kind of happiness that comes from being loved, which no amount of money can buy. Ramon's growth exceeded everyone's expectations. With Amanda, he'd been quiet and cautious, but in this loving family, he gradually became outgoing and confident. His grades jumped from the middle of the class to the top, he made like-minded friends, laughed again, and even joined the school baseball team, following in Charlie's footsteps. 9 years is a long time, long enough for a frightened 13-year-old boy to grow into a confident 22-year-old man, long enough for wounds to scab over, leaving faint scars that no longer hurt at the touch, long enough to build a fulfilling life where those who abandoned you fade from main characters to footnotes. Ramon graduated from high school with honors, earned a full college scholarship, and firmly chose to study medicine, determined to become a doctor, perhaps because he'd spent so much time in hospitals as a child, witnessing life and death, or because the doctors and nurses who'd helped him had planted seeds of kindness in his heart. Whatever the reason, his dedication to his studies stemmed from a deep understanding of life's fragility, and a desire to pass on the warmth of being loved to others. I watched him grow with immense pride and awe. This child who'd once been gravely ill, and abandoned by his mother now wore a white coat, his eyes steady, gentle yet strong. He looked more like Charlie now, especially in his calm and patient way with people, though Charlie laughed and told me, that stubborn streak of his. Total carbon copy of you. My own life took an unexpected turn. David's betrayal had hurt deeply, but it had also freed me from an unhappy marriage, giving me true independence. I threw myself into my career, was promoted to department manager, and achieved financial independence and self-worth. I poured my heart into raising Ramon, finding great fulfillment in watching him thrive. I even picked up my old hobbies, joining yoga and painting classes, finding joy in my busy life. About 5 years after the divorce, I met Marcus at a charity event. Marcus was everything David wasn't, a high school history teacher, patient and kind, with gentle laugh lines around his eyes and a sincere concern for others. When he heard my story, he didn't look down on me, instead, he admired my strength. He didn't rush to play the role of Ramon's father, but simply showed up consistently, bringing me dinner when I worked late, helping Ramon study for exams, listening patiently when I felt down. He earned Ramon's and my trust through time and reliability. After meeting Marcus for the first time, Ramon whispered to me, "Aunt Sabrina, he's real. Not fake like Uncle David. He doesn't try to impress anyone, he just is himself." By the time Ramon started medical school, Marcus had become part of our unconventional little family. Charlie, Marcus, Ramon, and I, we had Sunday dinners together, celebrated holidays, and traveled during Ramon's breaks. In those ordinary yet meaningful daily moments, we supported and accompanied each other. I realized this was what family truly meant, not blood relatives born into, but people we choose to love and build a life with, a warm haven woven with love and responsibility. In his second year of medical school, Ramon met Emily. She was a pediatric nurse, kind and gentle, with a sparkle in her eyes, and Ramon was interning in her ward. The first time he brought her to Sunday dinner, I knew she was special, not just because she was beautiful though she was, or smart though she was that too, but because of the way she looked at Ramon, with acceptance, as if he was perfect just as he was, unburdened by his past, cherishing the present, her eyes filled with "I love you exactly as you are." I told her everything, Ramon said later, smiling shyly as he helped me wash dishes, while Marcus and Charlie argued over a baseball game in the living room, the air warm and lively. About Amanda, about David, about being in the hospital, everything on our second date. I didn't want any secrets, I wanted to be honest with her. Then I asked if my past was too complicated, and she said that after going through so much suffering, the fact that I still believed in people and remained kind was a testament to my character. I set down the dish and gave him a big hug. This child who'd been abandoned and hurt had grown into a gentle yet strong man, who knew how to love and deserved to be loved. "She's right," I said softly. "You could have become bitter, could have closed yourself off, but you didn't. You chose kindness, that's the most precious quality of all." 6 months later, Ramon called, his voice brimming with uncontrollable joy. "Aunt Sabrina, I proposed." Emily said yes. "We're getting married next spring." "Ramon, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you." I cried tears of joy. And one more thing, his voice turned serious. I want you and Charlie to walk me down the aisle. You're the ones who raised me. In my heart, you're my parents, and I want the whole world to know how grateful I am to you. The wedding was breathtaking. Emily's family welcomed us warmly, immediately understanding that family comes in all forms, and love is the core that binds us together. The ceremony was held in a garden filled with tulips and roses, the late spring sun warm and bright, the air thick with the scent of flowers and endless possibilities. I was helping Ramon adjust his tie in the groom's room when he suddenly froze, his gaze fixed out the window. She's here, he said quietly, his tone calm, no surprise or resentment. I followed his gaze to see Amanda standing at the end of the garden. She looked much older, far more haggard than the last time I'd seen her, her hair dry and yellowed, wrinkles lining her eyes. The once glamorous woman now wore a faded dress, looking completely out of place. She stood there like an outsider, watching the guests arrive, watching this happiness that had nothing to do with her, watching the life that had thrived without her. Do you want me to ask her to leave? I asked carefully. It was his day, his decision. Ramon shook his head, no. Let her watch. Let her see what she gave up. Let her see that I can be happy without her. The ceremony was perfect. Ramon and Emily exchanged vows, promising to stand by each other through sickness and health, prosperity and adversity. Charlie's voice cracked several times during his father of the groom speech as he looked at Ramon, saying the proudest thing he'd ever done was choose to protect this child. Marcus held my hand tightly, his palm warm and reassuring. Meanwhile, in a corner of the garden, Amanda watched it all, her expression complex, envy, jealousy, and perhaps a flicker of genuine remorse. During the cocktail hour, as we took a break from dancing, Amanda approached. Her steps were unsteady, her eyes darting, no trace of her former arrogance. Sabrina, she said softly, her voice trembling. Can I talk to Ramon for a minute? Just a minute, I promise. I studied her face, seeing a look I'd never seen before, not manipulation, not despair, but perhaps genuine regret. That's not my decision to make, I said gently. But Amanda, if you're going to approach him on his wedding day, you need to be prepared for whatever answer he gives you. This is his special day, don't embarrass everyone. She nodded, her eyes darkening, as if she understood the weight of my words. Amanda walked slowly toward Ramon, who was chatting with his hospital colleagues, a happy smile on his face. I watched as she approached, as he noticed her, his expression shifting from surprise to calm wariness. They talked for about 2 minutes before Amanda did something that shocked everyone present. She dropped to her knees in front of her son, ignoring the astonished stares around her. Please, she sobbed, her voice carrying across the ballroom as guests fell silent, turning to look. Ramon, forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I know I abandoned you when you needed me most. I know I wasn't a good mother. But I'm begging you, let me be part of your life again. I'm so unhappy now. I need you. The room fell completely silent, all eyes fixed on Ramon, waiting for his decision. Ramon looked down at the woman who'd given birth to him, but had never truly been a mother, who'd chosen pleasure over her son's life, who'd been absent when he needed love most. When he spoke, his voice was calm yet firm, every word clearly heard by everyone present. You don't want me. You want someone to depend on. When I needed a mother, you chose to leave. When I was fighting for my life, you were indulging in pleasure. When I craved love, you didn't even call. All these years I've had Aunt Sabrina, Charlie, and Marcus. They gave me love, companionship, and security. My life has never been lacking because of your absence. I don't need you, and I can't forgive you. Amanda's face turned ashen. She reached out tremblingly, trying to grab the hem of Ramon's pants, but he stepped back slightly, avoiding her touch. Ramon, please. I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry, she wailed, but her tears couldn't undo the past. You weren't wrong, Ramon said, his voice emotionless. You just chose the life you wanted. And now, I'm living the life I want. We're strangers now. With that, he turned and walked toward Emily, leaving Amanda kneeling alone, bearing the disdainful glances of everyone around her. Amanda slowly stood up, her face streaked with tears and despair. She looked around at the happy family she'd abandoned, at the life she could have had, before turning and fleeing the ballroom in humiliation. Later, I heard that her relationship with David had fallen apart long ago. Once David had spent all his savings, he'd left her too. She had no job, no money, and no family willing to take her in, surviving on odd jobs and living in the cheapest housing project. Years of depression and poor living habits had left her seriously ill, but she couldn't afford treatment. In the end, she died alone in her apartment on a cold winter night, her body discovered by neighbors days later. No one cried for her, no one mourned her. Her life had been destroyed by her own selfishness and coldness. Ramon kissed his bride, and the room erupted in loud, heartfelt applause. I locked eyes with Charlie across the dance floor, and the man who'd chosen to love an abandoned child, strong and reliable, was also teary-eyed, giving me a thumbs up. Marcus squeezed my hand tightly, whispering in my ear, "We did it." Emily's parents smiled warmly, giving us approving looks, while Ramon's face was filled with pure, untainted happiness. This is family. This is home. It has nothing to do with blood, marriage certificates, or legal definitions, it's all about choice, choosing love over selfishness, commitment over escape, perseverance over abandonment, responsibility over indulgence. Blood is a bond given by fate, but family is a choice we make with our hearts. Amanda would never understand that true family isn't a relationship you're born into, but people who choose to stay, to give, to stand by you through thick and thin. True love isn't empty words spoken aloud, but companionship and responsibility put into action. Life always brings unexpected hardships and betrayals, but in our darkest moments, it also sends us people worth cherishing. Those who choose to love us, to protect us, to stand up for us, to light a path in the darkness, these are the true treasures of life, our real family. And in choosing to love and be loved, we find complete happiness and discover the true meaning of life. May everyone who has been let down find someone willing to stay. May everyone who craves love understand that family is a choice, love is a commitment, and happiness is always in our own hands.